Here at the Office of Veterans Services at St. Joseph's University, we work to provide veteran entrepreneurs with tools for their success. In light of the ongoing pandemic and its impact on the business climate, we're speaking with veteran small business owners to learn how they're dealing with the situation. Today, I'm going to interview Dave Singer, the owner of Peregrine Manufacturing Incorporated, which is a manufacturer of quality glide harnesses and container systems for parachutes. Dave is a veteran of the U.S. Army, where he served as an Army Special Operations parachute rigger. He's also been extremely active in the civilian parachute industry for over 27 years, and he just so happens to be my cousin. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he turned his parachute rigging factory into a factory for life-saving masks. His company's website is peregrinemfginc.com. Welcome, Dave.
Hi.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into your current work, can you tell us a bit about your time in the Army and then how you transitioned from the Army to the civilian world of skydiving?
Sure. So I spent 8 years as a special operations parachute rigger. It's MOS 92 Romeo. I started off as a 43 Echo and they changed it to 92 Romeo. That job is nothing but parachutes. All day long, all night long. So that whole time in the Army was pretty much getting my baseline foundation experience in skydiving and parachuting, both round and free fall systems. When I decided to get out of the Army, I went straight to Southern California, where the largest drop zones are, where the biggest skydiving community is. And I went to college down there in San Diego, and I was a full-time cameraman for a national or a internationally competing team. You know, the rigging experience and my education as an engineer combined, that's kind of really what propelled me into where I am today.
Great. So what actually made you want to start Peregrine Manufacturing? Like what was the transition from just kind of being in the parachute world, the military side and the civilian side, to actually starting your own business?
Well, I was working for one of the largest military and civilian skydiving harness container companies. At the time I was the director of engineering for 10 years for a company called Sunpath Products. An opportunity came about where the actual original owner of Sunpath was aging. He was in his late 70s, and he had another company that he wanted to sell. So unfortunately, the company I was working for and the company I wanted to purchase were competing companies for product lines. So I left Sunpath and I purchased this company and turned it around and made it into what I have today.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the rigging that you make and some of the equipment for people who aren't familiar with the technology?
Sure. I make what's called a harness container system. So in the layman's terms, I make the backpack. I make what you put the parachutes into and what you wear on your back. And that with that comes all the little component parts too. So we make the risers, the toggles, everything that you need to actually attach the parachutes to the system and use it. It's the main pilot chute, the reserve pilot chute. There's probably about 60 or 70 tiny little components that we ship with our product that you have to have in order to use the parachutes in it.
Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah, we always wonder down at our end. We check your website out every now and then. It looks so cool, but it just looks so technical that we weren't sure exactly kind of what end you were dealing with. But so impressive. We really encourage everyone to check out your website and look at the technology.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a lifelong dream, if you will. It's definitely a day-to-day, lifelong learning lesson in industrial sewing, and there is a lot of technology built into it. It's a three-dimensional functional piece of textiles. So there's mechanical properties to it that, the product itself has mechanical properties that have to work right to allow the parachutes to open and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into it for sure.
Oh, wow. So how's the COVID-19 virus impacted your business? I mean, initially from the early stages, from, caring for your workers, different orders, and then how'd you really make the transition into manufacturing these masks? So, again, Dave has turned his really impressive parachute factory where they have laser technology and a lot of engineering to make these masks here, which they even have the some of the antiviral paper inside. So how did you decide to make that transition, and what was that like?
Honestly, I started thinking about the masks maybe 8 months ago when I was overseas and I saw everything happening in Hong Kong. All the riots and the students rioting in the streets against the government in Hong Kong. There was a story about how the masks were fooling all of the facial recognition technology that the Chinese government had. So it got me thinking then that these things are going to be a part of the future. As Big Brother grows and all these things, people are going to need some way to feel like they're incognito, so to speak. So that was the conception of it. The beginning of March, I was supposed to go over to Qatar, where I do a lot of contract work. And the first week in March, that big contract just got stopped. They said, you're not coming. And it really rang the alarm bell for me that something's happening, that this is going to go big and we've got to do something. So how it's affected us, well, we shut down for 2 weeks. Initially, we sent everybody home. The Department of Labor didn't want anybody in. And I was going to work by myself every day, trying to figure out, as an entrepreneur, how am I going to keep my business going? The orders for civilian sport parachutes basically stopped. People aren't jumping anymore. The people in a student program or in a training program aren't jumping, and they're not buying equipment. If you can't go play hockey, you're not buying new sticks. So that's kind of where we were at the beginning of March, and that mask idea that happened back in November popped in my head, and I'm like, we got to do something. So I started working on a better design, prototyping in the grocery store by myself in the beginning of March, and I made a few social media posts of what I was doing, and within 2 to 3 days, it went from, hey, can I have a mask, 1 or 2 friends, to friends that own companies with construction workers that were in hotel rooms for a week and a half. And all they needed was some PPE to get back to work and get back on the job. So a friend of mine called up, he wanted 100. That was our first big order. And before that order was even out the door, we had 1,500 more in the queue. Just the orders just kept coming and coming and coming. For the last 2 weeks in March to the middle of April, we were full bore. I mean, I had to bring people back. So my workers were able to come back, which was really nice that they weren't sitting at home unemployed. However, we had to rearrange the shop completely. Fortunately, I have 2 buildings and I only have 4 employees. So I had 2 people in building 1, 2 people in building 2. So we were way further than 6 feet apart at that time. We bought UV sanitation system. So we had a ultraviolet light system that all the masks would go under and sit on either side for 10 minutes each and then they went right into packaging. So, the machines, the sewing machines and things, the industrial side of things, the tools that we have were turnkey. They were just sitting there waiting to make the product. It was just a matter of developing a product that was useful and creating a buzz, because we donated 10% of our production every week. We had to make that substantial, we had to do some sort of advertising and get people to buy these things. So for those 4 or 5 weeks, we were donating 10% of the weekly production. And the people that were buying our masks, that was we're grateful for those people that were purchasing so that we could go out and make those donations to the local grocery store. Non-medical people is what we focused on, so that the medical people could get the real good stuff, the N95 stuff, the proper PPE. So we focused on the volunteer fire departments, the police departments, small towns that don't have big budgets to buy. As I was going to the post office every day, all of a sudden the postmaster saw me day in and day out, and he's asking me what I'm doing. I told him about the masks. The next day we had an order for U.S. Postal Service. So all the local post offices have USPS logos on their masks. And then UPS, the drivers wanted them. So a couple donations to those guys, and it just kind of organically spread, which was kind of nice.
Oh, yeah. Especially because you're up in Connecticut, and so many of the resources were going to New York City, and then the area of Connecticut just outside New York. But where are you in Connecticut now?
We're in the northeast corner, so we call it the quiet corner. So we have very few cases. The only problem is that there's a major freeway that goes right up the east side of Connecticut that connects New York City and Boston. So we don't stop on the freeway. We don't get gas on the rest stops or anything there. We just kind of make sure we're off the freeway, so yeah, that's fortunately we're in a low density area where we're able to kind of maintain people's health and keep my workers safe too.
Cool. Well, what have you learned about yourself during this process?
I've learned to not give up hope. I don't know, people get kind of discouraged with humanity. A lot of the times we get caught up in our own world, and you don't really see the good in people all the time. This experience, I've been so busy for the last 6 or 7 weeks that my head's been down. I've been work, but I've been able to come in contact, or my circle has interfaced with other circles, with these philanthropists, people calling and buying 100 masks at a time to donate to their local towns. And I've probably dealt with maybe 6 or 7 new humans that have restored my faith in humanity a little bit. There are a lot of nice, caring people out there. There's not enough of them. Let's put it that way. There's not enough of those nice, caring people out there to outweigh the other humans that aren't so nice. But it's been nice to be able to interact with those people.
Great. Well, do you have any takeaways or maybe last bits of advice or words of encouragement that you could give to our veterans who are seeking to make a transition like you did, or make a pivot during this time?
Sure. A couple key things. The key fundamentals of any business owner is be flexible, be nimble, be able to change. You have to be able to change. And that's just something that you have to keep in your back of your mind, is that you've got to have your finger on the temperature of whatever market you're in, and you've got to be able to change. You don't get focused on doing one thing and one thing only, because that one thing could be gone tomorrow. And build your business knowing that your tools may be applied in many different ways. And if you're able to do that and diversify and be flexible, you'll be successful. That's the only way that a small business can survive these days, is to be nimble, be flexible, and just kind of plan for tomorrow. Just always have that. You don't know what's coming around the corner, but be ready for whatever you can. Great.
Well, Dave, thank you for your time, and thank you for your sharing your experiences with us during this unique time to be in business.
My pleasure.
Proud of you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm proud to be your cousin, buddy.